Now that we know that the anime of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX is getting a remaster, the Yu-Gi-Oh! GX fanbase has been, or excuse me, the Yu-Gi-Oh! Fanbase in general has been talking a lot about GX and really like diving into how much they loved it or how much they hate it. And I thought it was a hot topic because I came across this video. Yu-Gi-Oh! GX is the best Yu-Gi-Oh! Series, and as somebody who agrees with that, and GX was literally my childhood, I loved watching this, and to this day, and I'm officially now been doing a rewatch with my sister, man. I thought that this would be a very interesting video to watch. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another video. If you are new here, my name is Kyle. I am your guy with too many YouTube channels. Let's see what Late Night Sausage has to say about Yu-Gi-Oh! GX.
Yu-Gi-Oh! GX is actually the best Yu-Gi-Oh! Series of the entire franchise. Yu-Gi-Oh! GX has been getting such a bad rap from the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community for so many years now. And
I would say like it's been getting a little bit easier as time's gone on. People are getting more nostalgic for it. People are missing their childhood. It's you have people coming out and really appreciating it.
Honestly, Yu-Gi-Oh! GX is really good. Like, I grew up in the 2000s when Yu-Gi-Oh! GX was airing. And
yeah, same here. I grew up in, I was born in 1997, and I grew up at the perfect time for Yu-Gi-Oh! GX.
The original Yu-Gi-Oh! Was a little too old for me to catch the brand new episodes until we got to like season 4, and then I was able to watch the new episodes as they came out. But
I don't recall, like, I think I caught some reruns back in the day for Yu-Gi-Oh! But Yu-Gi-Oh! GX I was watching, like, as it came out, and I remember, like, I still remember the odd times where I had to miss an episode, and then I had to, like, scramble to figure out, like, when it was going to be on next, and we didn't have streaming services.
The original, like, Duelist Kingdom and Battle City, I think, aired when I was a little too young to comprehend it, but I would catch the reruns, and I loved Yu-Gi-Oh! I thought it was an amazing series, but Yu-Gi-Oh! GX was the actual first series I watched where I was able—
Now, this, that's amazing in nostalgic form, but I actually watched the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Series and this. I kind of watched them both at the same time, to be honest with you. And honestly, I loved them both. I think I just like GX a little bit more.
To keep up with every episode when it came out and when it aired. And let me tell you, it was and still is amazing. And there's so many critics of like the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community when it comes to GX. Like, it's not talked about at conventions. Even the voice actors make fun of GX. But
really? I didn't know that. That's sad. Why? I'm going through a rewatch right now again with my sister, and I really am nostalgic for a lot of the jokes that they've been making, the lightheartedness of it all. Like, I loved the school vibe they brought to it.
I don't know why that is. I think GX is a perfect, like, teenage kind of Yu-Gi-Oh! I feel like the old Yu-Gi-Oh! Was really good when it came to storytelling, but especially in America when it came to the 4Kids dub, they harped on one thing way too much. Friendship. Literally
that's true. That's true. That's so true. With the power of friendship. And what was that? I even thought this was stupid when I was a kid. Like that little like friendship symbol they had on their hands where it's like they would glow whenever it was time for them to like be ultimate friends or something. I actually thought that was cringy even when I was a little kid, to be honest.
Yu-Gi-Oh! Was fantastic until they started bringing up friendship and friends. Like, I don't know how many times Yu-Gi-Oh! Had to give Kaiba the speech about friends and how important it is to have people in your life. Blah, blah, blah. It became so annoying.
And then the best part about it was Kaiba was always like, I don't need friends. And then Kaiba became one of the best memes in the history of the world.
I just kind of tuned out when I watched like the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Like, the actual story that Kazuki Takahashi made is fantastic with the Egyptian gods, Battle City, and the final arc. It was all
good. And I will say that I thought the original had the best story by far. Like, it's not comparable. But as a entire viewing experience, I love the lightheartedness. I love the jokes. I love the constant switching between like the really deep episodes to the funny, weird episodes, like what we just ended up watching. We ended up watching the battle between Cyrus and oh my god, I'm having a giant blank. Why am I blanking about that dinosaur guy? I'm not gonna think about it. Like, that is gonna bother me. That just made me look so stupid. Oh my, Hasselberry. I was like, what's his name? I'm making a video talking about GX, and I don't know that guy's name. But yeah, I love the fun duels like that. I love the fun episodes like that. And I loved the character progression as it got darker and darker and darker as these kids grew up. I did think that the original had the best story, but the overall viewing experience, laughter, and overall joy I had watching, it was totally on GX.
Great, but the amount of times they kept bringing up friendship was so annoying.
Actually, sorry to put a pause on that again. You know what I actually thought about? I never laughed at the original series. I started laughing at it when I became an adult because Kaiba was funny. How arrogant he was. The memes that came out about it. I didn't laugh about it growing up. I laughed at GX.
And I also watched Yu-Gi-Oh! 5Ds, and they did the same exact thing. And I know they probably did it way more in the 4Kids dub, and the sub probably doesn't have as much friendship, but that doesn't really matter to me because I grew up in an English-speaking country and with watching it in the English dub, so that's what I'm rating today. But
yeah, and I'm the same way. I only watch things in English.
Yu-Gi-Oh! GX is so good because they actually just focus on like the card game and the absurdity of the Yu-Gi-Oh! World. And they talk about friendship here and there. Jaden, does his little speech when it comes to troubled kids, but it's mainly about playing this game and being kind of cool. Like,
yeah, they dive into all of the different deck types. They dive into all the different personalities. They dive into... Here's the thing. They don't have to tell you that they're all friends. You just know that they are, right? They don't need to tell you, oh my god, how important is this friendship? No, they just show you, and I thought they did a great job of doing that.
I was 8 years old when Yu-Gi-Oh! GX came out. I'm dating myself, but I was 8. And seeing someone like Jaden, who was kind of like a freshman in high school, it was just cool. Like, he was just a cool guy. And the English voice cast was amazing. They had, like, Sean Schemmel to do Dr. Crowler. They had the voice of Kaiba, Eric Stewart.
Wait, who's Kaiba voicing? I've never seen it. I've never seen the voice actors to any of these characters before.
Bastion Masawa. And like Zane's voice actor was just so cool.
Yeah.
And Jaden's voice actor fit the bill.
What? That's Jaden's voice actor? It's so funny how, like, I know obviously they're not going to look like their character, but I don't know how I expected them to look. I've never seen it before.
Like, Jaden was just such a cool protagonist. And his heroes and his deck was so cool. And honestly, I like some of the GX cards more than the original series cards.
Oh my god, not even close. Yeah, everything about the Elemental Heroes was infinitely better. Like, I liked the overall, like, Egyptian vibe, the focus on magic, I guess that you could call it, with the original series. It was a little bit darker, but the amount of different deck types and variants and, like, cards working together, I loved the GX's decks so much better, and they didn't have to rely, I was about to say they didn't have to rely on the heart of the cards, but they kind of did in their own way in GX.
The archetypes were very unique and different from anything we've seen, and GX focused on fusion summoning as like their main shtick or gimmick in this universe, and the different fusion types and monsters were kind of like abundant and crazy. It was awesome. But I've been a huge fan of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX ever since I was a kid, and I just hate how the community has been like bashing on Yu-Gi-Oh! GX.
I feel like, but that might be just because I don't keep up with the community, so I could be totally wrong about that. I remember hearing a lot more bashing about GX back in the day, as opposed to now people are actually coming out and getting nostalgic about it. It's kind of like what you see with Star Wars now, where when it first came out, the prequel trilogy, when it first came out, everybody was always talking about how much it sucked. The actors sucked. Everything about it always sucked. And now that all of these kids who grew up with the prequel trilogy ended up growing up, you have clips of, like, the actor that plays Anakin Skywalker actually crying because he's experiencing love from the fans from the first time.
Like, I don't think it's, like, the worst. And I'm not going to sit here and lie and say I've watched, Zexal or Arc V. I've seen a couple episodes, but, just judging it based off the dub, I'm not a fan of the characters.
Yeah, I haven't watched them either, just the original and GX.
Designs, and I'm not really a fan of the monsters. It might have a good story. I'm not really sure, but I was never really invested enough to care. So we're just going to talk about the original 3, Yu-Gi-Oh!, GX, and 5D.
Now, unfortunately, I can't have an opinion on 5Ds because I've never watched that. I've heard it's fantastic, and I keep intending to one day, but I just never have.
All I've seen. But I was watching a YouTuber named Melon T, who made a video about Yu-Gi-Oh! GX and said how she kind of like hated Yu-Gi-Oh! GX growing up, but watching it in the sub, she started to like it more. And I kind of wanted to go through a lot of like critiques that a lot of Yu-Gi-Oh! people have with GX.
Really? Like, I don't know. This could just be because I never had any experience watching anything. In the sub, I've never understood that, man. I speak English and I want to watch something in English. If I wanted to read, I'll go read a book. I just never understood that. If you want to watch things in Japanese, that's totally fine. I don't understand. And I don't understand why everybody kind of just like, oh my god, you watch the dub, as if like I could care less what somebody else's language somebody's watching something in.
And I want to address a lot of that. So Melon T kind of makes a point saying that Yu-Gi-Oh! GX in the English dub took a lot of these characters and made them like two-dimensional or made them like over-exaggerated versions of themselves. But to be fair, I think that was
what was that graphic in the end?
A really good idea. They made Jaden like a more kind of like 2000s like teenager, where like, he was just super excited, kind of like a stoner a little bit. But
I don't know. I disagree with that. I don't think Jaden was like a stoner at all. He was just a happy guy. He was excited. And there are elements that and we dove into it. We made an entire video on the first season. There are elements of Jaden that I think rubbed off on me as a child that I've taken into the rest of my life. Like, I don't think they made him like a stoner at all. There were stoner characters, but not Jaden. Jaden was not one of them.
It made him fun. Like, I watch season 4 of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX. I'm watching the sub for it. And to be fair, it is kind of like a different tonal shift in the series.
Oh, I also never watched season 4, but I know what happens in the story.
That Jaden, just in general, is a lot more calmer and like normal. But Jaden in the GX dub is hilarious. And that's one of my favorite things about the GX dub. If you actually go back and watch this series, it is hilarious.
I agree with that. Again, my sister and I were having such a good time not only reliving this, but like just laughing at like the jokes. And you know what's crazy is they were making jokes that's not okay to say, like nowadays, like, you know what I'm talking about. They were making jokes about Crowler, and I can't remember. I'm almost sure there was a couple fat jokes about Chumley.
There's so many funny moments.
Ready, geek? Time to get chazzed. Hold that thought. Before you chazz me, watch this.
See, it's stuff like that, and it's huge meme potential. It's straight up funny.
2 of my face downs. But how? Easy. I just call out their names dramatically and they pop up. Haven't you played this game before? Because it's
And funny just dialogue choices that they made. I can't believe that they actually like greenlit some of the dialogue that they said.
But that's like a very, very tame part too. Like there was much more like, no, I don't want to say crazy, but there were just way funnier episodes and funny lines.
We got to prove ourselves to the boss, dog. Then she'll be giving us some mad respect, know what I'm saying?
You're right.
I am? I mean, yeah, boy, let's do this, yo.
It's pretty self-aware and breaks the fourth wall a couple times.
Yeah.
But I think the people at 4Kids were having such a good time writing it, and it makes it way more enjoyable as an adult to go back and like watch and listen to all this dialogue. That probably went over my head when I was like 8 years old.
I was about to pause after the sentence and saying there was a lot that actually went over our heads. I was about to say that exact same thing. It's funny, the things that you don't know. It's kind of like going back and watching SpongeBob as an adult.
Another complaint I see from Melon T is that she thought season 1 of Yu-Gi-Oh! GX was just boring and not good. And I can see what she means by this because the original Yu-Gi-Oh! Had a very strong narrative plot that drove basically every episode of the original series. While
It's just different. I understand that critique, but it's just different. And I understand if you're wanting to watch one series like the original series that you watch, you kind of expect that same energy carried over. I get that. But that's not what it was meant to be. It was meant to just be a chill, laid-back, fun show. And that's what I really enjoyed about it.
GX was kind of more a slice of life type of story up until the end of season 1 and then going on to season 2 and season 3. But to be fair, I think this slice of life kind of style was a great breakaway from the very serious Yu-Gi-Oh! Because dueling...
And I love that because we started off with the slice of life thing. Fun episodes, fun characters, just living like the exaggerated high school life. And then it dives into it. It gets serious. They go into that other world. And then you really, really dive into, not, I don't know, like what you can call it, like the stars dimension. You know what I'm talking about?
Should be fun. And especially for the new audience, which is like centered towards more of the teens or the kids that grew up watching the original series. It's a good breakaway just to have Yu-Gi-Oh! As a game that's just fun for kids to play, which is the original intent of the series.
That's a good point too, because I was never inspired. That's not true. I was inspired as a kid to play the game when I was watching the original series, but it was just amplified a million times with the fun that GX was having.
Honestly, some of these storylines kind of hit hard. Like episode 14, A Spirit Summoned, was actually kind of creepy, and it came out right around Halloween back in like 2005. It was basically where the Jinzo dual spirit was evil and came to life and was like abducting kids, and Jaden had to beat it or else he would be like taken as a prisoner. It was actually kind of terrifying and super cool. And
yeah, I remember having those feelings as a kid as well. I remember that too, but again, the slice of life, something different happening every single episode. You can have an episode about like a monkey, and then you have the lesson to teach the kids about the monkey, like where it's like, okay, we shouldn't be experimenting on these things, all the way to just like, what they have, the cosplay tournament thing. You know what I'm talking about, like with Cyrus?
It's not like the whole series was a slice of life type anime. We had serious arcs, like in the end of season 1, we had the Shadow Riders. Season 2, we had the Society of Light. Season 3, we had Professor Viper, and then Yubel.
Yeah, season 3 really, really dove into it, just like the original series would.
Season 4, we had like the final villain, which was just Darkness. So we had like actual story arcs that we followed that kind of put more pressure on Jaden, but it wasn't until like, you know, later into his like Dual Academy years, but it was still there and it was still pretty solid storytelling. And even when Jaden was put in a lot of serious situations, they were always still cracking jokes and making light of the situation that they were.
I haven't watched it since I was a kid. I don't think he did that in season 3, But I get the point he was talking about, like, especially for something like this episode, he's facing the idea of getting expelled from school, and he was still having fun with it.
And then we have a total tonal shift in the series with seasons 3 and 4, where Jaden actually
Sorry.
had to mature and then like learn the consequences of dueling and that he could lose a lot of his friends from the choices he makes. And
Yeah, it turned into him being a literal mass murderer.
put a lot more pressure on Jaden to grow up and to mature, and it took away a lot of like, you know, the fun playfulness of GX and made it more of a serious story, which was also a good tonal shift in the middle of the series. So I think GX gets a lot of flack when it really shouldn't. I think it stands as one of the best Yu-Gi-Oh series that we have seen. And
You just have to look at it for what it was. And again, I understand it if you're coming into the series expecting it to be like the original, because why wouldn't it be? Who would have expected it to be different? Then I understand it. You just have to take it at face value. You have to take it for the slice of life anime show that it is. You have to understand that there's goofy episodes and just fun episodes of the kids like living at school. And then it dives into deeper meaning and darker stories and deeper arcs. Like, you just have to wait for it. And I understand if it's not everybody's cup of tea, but it's definitely my cup of tea.
I gotta say, the supporting cast is honestly really good. Like, Zane Truesdale is amazing. He is so cool. I actually love Chaz a lot.
Agreed. Chaz was hilarious. Chaz wasn't as funny as Kaiba, but he was getting there. Crowler was great. Alexis was great. Bonaparte was great. Bastion was great. All of them were great. The only one that I really hated, like, I didn't like Cyrus that much, and I hated Chumley. Oh, grilled cheese! Like, it wasn't funny. Ever. Like, it wasn't funny as a kid. It's not funny as an adult. It's not funny that he just wanted to eat all the time. And what's funny is, like, that could actually have potential. A character who just wants to eat all the time and doesn't want to run or anything like that. It didn't hit the mark. He was just annoying and he just butted in all of the time. It was horrible. I hated him.
Like, he is such a funny character. He's kind of like the Kaiba of the series. But
yeah, and he actually dove, like, deep into his insults too, Chaz. Like, Slifer Sludge.
He has kind of a metamorphosis where he actually like becomes friends with everybody, which Yu-Gi always wanted for Kaiba, but looks like we got that with Chaz. And he has like humbling moments where he goes from being the richest kid to being disowned by his family and then having to prove that he is worth the Princeton name.
And that's a good point too, because that all happened within the slice of life part, because there were actually like decent storylines within the slice of life part of the anime show, but it's kind of overshadowed.
We have the other side characters like Cyrus, Chumley, and Alexis, and all of
them. The only one that I liked out of that was Alexis. Cyrus was a little bit annoying, and Chumley was majorly annoying.
Have a lot of great character arcs within themselves, and honestly, like, it's a solid cast. They all have very interesting stories. They're pretty lovable. I will say Cyrus does get annoying a little bit, but he's really...
Yeah, like, I don't want to say I hate Cyrus. It's just like, it's hard for me to say that I would enjoy the show if he never existed, but he's such an integral part of the show.
He's self-aware about how he's like the sidekick of the series, and they give him a lot of fourth wall breaking kind of dialogue, which makes it more tolerable and actually more fun. But,
you know, he's kind of changing my mind. I kind of have to agree with that.
Yu-Gi-Oh! GX has so much going for it, and I'm so sad that the anime community and the Yu-Gi-Oh! Community doesn't put a lot of respect on GX. But I think now that we're all adults, if you go back and watch the dub, I think we can all enjoy Yu-Gi-Oh! GX way more than we did when we were kids. And honestly, I'm going to make a Yu-Gi-Oh! GX Jaden Yuki character analysis.
Ooh, that sounds good. We actually should dive into that. But it seems like that's going to be the outro of the video, so let's wrap it up and see what he has to say.
Video, because he is my favorite of the protagonists from Yu-Gi-Oh! And his character arc is so sad and like serious at
Dude,
times.
I know. I actually like, I love it, but I hate it at the same time. It's one of those things where it's like, okay, you know what, that makes sense. It was really great storytelling. It's understandable to take Jaden this route, but I hated it because he was so happy, loving life, positive at the pilot of the show, and then he just turns into like the ultimate depressed person. Understandably so, with everything that he went through. He turned into a murderer. He turned into somebody who was like bonded with a demon. Everything that could have gone wrong in somebody's life to the most positive person ever went wrong, and that just still hurts to this day a little bit.
He deserves his own video, and I think we need a lot more GX love. So in the comments below, I want you guys to talk about your favorite GX moments and what GX means to you. And if you don't...
Yeah, it's one of those nostalgic moments, man. It's one of those nostalgic shows. Like, I can always go back and watch GX. I don't know what my favorite moment was, man. I would have to say season 1. It's between season 1 and season 3. That was my favorite because I loved the serious tone that season 3 had, but also, like, the chill vibe that season 1 had was also very special. If you guys are interested, we did make an entire review video diving into each plot, like each point each moment in the plot about season 1, you can check out that video right here. I would love to have you guys over there. Thank you very, very much for watching. Take care.